A luxury car dealership can estimate your financial position in less than 40 seconds. Not because the salesperson is a financial genius, not because they secretly pulled your bank account, and not because of the watch on your wrist. They watch how you walk in, what you ask first, whether you mention monthly payments, whether you bring up your trade-in, how quickly you react when financing comes up, and most importantly, what happens when they finally see your credit profile. Because the sales process inside a luxury dealership almost never changes. The showroom is the same. The cars are the same. The coffee machine is the same. The smiling salesperson is usually following the same system. What changes is you, your credit score, your income, your assets, your debt, your financial history, and depending on those numbers, two people can walk into the exact same dealership and experience two completely different worlds. One person gets pushed toward the used lot and offered a brutal interest rate. Another gets invited into a private room and is offered a car before the public even knows it exists. So today, I'm going to walk you through 7 levels of financial status inside a luxury car dealership. And if you pay attention, you'll realize this video is not really about cars. It's about how money changes the way the system treats you. You're 23 years old. Your credit score is under 580. You need a car. Not because you want one, because without a car, you can't get to work. You walk into the dealership, and within a few minutes, the salesperson has already changed their strategy. You're probably not going toward the bright showroom floor. You're going toward the used inventory in the back. Older cars, higher mileage, cars that have already lived one life before they met you. And very quickly, the conversation turns from the car itself to financing. Do you have a cosigner? That question tells you almost everything. At this level, the dealership is not really asking, "What car do you want?" They're asking, "How do we get this loan approved?" Maybe the car is listed at $14,500. You think the problem is finding a way to afford $14,500. But the real problem begins when the financing gets added. Maybe the APR is 24.9%. Maybe the term stretches for years. Maybe there are fees, add-ons, protection packages, and financing costs you barely understand. And suddenly that $14,500 car can cost you more than $22,000 over time. Here's the psychological trick. They know you are not buying from a position of strength. You need transportation. You need to get to work Monday morning. And desperation destroys negotiating power. When someone needs a car immediately, they stop asking, "Is this a good deal?" They start asking, "Can I get approved?" That is a completely different question. And the second your goal becomes approval instead of value, the dealership has the advantage. You drive away relieved because you finally have transportation. But the relief doesn't last very long. Because now every month, that payment reminds you that your past financial decisions are sitting in the driveway. Missed payments, late phone bills, maxed out credit cards, maybe things you forgot about years ago. They didn't disappear. They came back wearing 4 wheels. And this is level 1. You're not really shopping for a car. You're shopping for permission to borrow money. Now you're 26. Your credit score has climbed to around 620. You're doing better. Not great, but better. This time, you're not automatically pushed toward the cheapest inventory. You may be shown a cleaner used vehicle, maybe something more premium, a newer model, better interior, lower mileage. And for the first time, you feel like you have some control. So you ask the obvious question, "How much is the car?" And the salesperson answers with another question, "What monthly payment are you comfortable with?" That sentence has made dealerships a lot of money, because the moment you stop negotiating the total price and start negotiating the monthly payment, the numbers become easier to manipulate. Maybe you say, "I don't want to go above $350 a month." Perfect. Now the dealership knows your psychological ceiling. They can stretch the loan, adjust the down payment, add products, move numbers around, and somehow, magically, the final payment comes out to $347 a month. You feel like you won. You said $350. They came in under $350. But what you may not notice is what happened to the total cost. Extended warranty, paint protection, tir protection, gap insurance, service plans, documentation fees, financing costs. Suddenly, A $21,000 vehicle turns into something much closer to $31,000 by the time you're finished paying for it. And you don't feel cheated. That's the genius of the monthly payment game. You feel accommodated. You feel like they listened to you. You feel more powerful than you did at level 1. But you're still playing on their board. At this level, you've improved financially, but you still think like a payment buyer. And dealerships love payment buyers because total price hurts once. Monthly payments hurt slowly, and slowly is easier to sell. Now you're 29. Your credit score is around 685. This time, something changes. You walk through the front of the showroom. The lighting is better. The cars are newer. The conversation feels more relaxed. You get a proper test drive. Maybe the salesperson even tells you to take the car on the highway. Really feel how it drives. Your financing offer might now be around 9.9%. Still not amazing, but compared to where you started, it feels like progress. And then comes one of the oldest dealership performances in the business. You make an offer. The salesperson looks uncomfortable. They pause. Then they say, "I don't know if my manager will go for that." And they disappear. You sit at the desk. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe 15. You start wondering what they're discussing. Maybe your salesperson is fighting for you. Maybe the manager is angry. Maybe you push too hard. Then the salesperson comes back. They lean forward. "Okay, I really had to work for this." And somehow, they found another $800. You feel good. You negotiated. You stood your ground. You won. But here's the uncomfortable part. In many cases, that extra room was already built into the deal. The trip to the manager's office may be real, but the drama around it is part of the process. The waiting creates tension. The tension makes the discount feel more valuable. And when people feel like they've won something, they become more emotionally committed to completing the purchase. So you sign. You drive home. You stop at a red light. You look around the cabin. Leather seats. New car smell. Everything feels great. And then the thought hits you. Did I really negotiate that discount? Or was I supposed to get it from the beginning? That question is a sign that you're entering a different financial level. You're no longer just focused on whether you can afford the payment. Now you're starting to understand the game. Now you're 35. You earn around $110,000 a year. Your credit score is 735. This is where the relationship begins to change. At lower levels, you needed the dealership. At this level, the dealership starts needing you too. You are financeable. You have stable income. You have options. And most importantly, you can walk away. That last part changes everything. Maybe the salesperson offers you an overnight test drive. Take it home. See how it feels in your garage. That is not just generosity. That is psychology. Once a car sits in your driveway overnight, your brain starts treating it like it already belongs to you. Your spouse sees it. Your neighbors see it. You connect your phone. You adjust the seat. You picture Monday morning. The dealership is trying to turn temporary possession into emotional ownership. But this time, you have leverage too. Your financing choices are better. Maybe you're offered 3.9% financing or $2,500 cash back. You can compare. You can calculate. You can leave. So the dealership uses a different technique, the trade-in. This is one of the easiest ways to blur a negotiation. You're discussing the price of the new car. At the same time, you're discussing the value of your old car. At the same time, you're discussing financing. Now there are 3 sets of numbers moving at once. Purchase price, trade-in value, loan structure. If the dealership gives you more on the trade-in but takes less off the new car, did you win? If they give you a great price on the new car but undervalue your trade-in, did you win? This is why financially experienced buyers often separate the negotiations. One number at a time. What is the vehicle price? What is the trade-in value? What is the financing rate? Because once everything gets blended together, it becomes harder to see where the profit is hiding. But there is a bigger change happening here. For the first time, you notice that the salesperson is working harder to keep you from leaving. At level 1, you were trying to get approved. At level 4, they are trying to keep you in the building. That is a massive difference. Now you're 41. You make around $200,000 a year. Your credit score is 782. You've bought enough things in your life to understand something important. The cheapest deal is not always the best deal. Your time matters. Your stress matters. Your attention matters. So your buying behavior changes. You already know what you want before you arrive. You've researched the model, the trim, the options. Maybe you've already exchanged emails with the dealership. When you arrive, the vehicle is waiting. Clean, detailed, full tank of gas. Paperwork prepared. The finance office takes 20 minutes instead of 2 hours. And now, something almost strange happens. You stop obsessing over every tiny number. Not because you became stupid, because your decision-making changed. At lower income levels, an $800 difference can affect your budget. At this level, spending 3 extra hours arguing over $800 may feel more expensive than the $800 itself. So the entire emotional experience changes. You are no longer trying to prove that nobody can take advantage of you. You simply want a clean transaction, fair price, correct paperwork, no nonsense. Done. And the dealership recognizes this buyer immediately. High-income buyers often signal themselves through behavior before anyone sees the credit report. They ask direct questions. They don't negotiate emotionally. They don't obsess over monthly payments. They are comfortable walking away, and they value speed. That last one matters, because wealth doesn't just change what you can buy. It changes what you refuse to waste, including time. Now you're 46. Your net worth is around $500,000 or more. Your credit score is 812. You are now the kind of customer the dealership wants to keep for years. The relationship doesn't begin when you walk into the showroom anymore. It begins with a phone call. We just received something you may want to see. The vehicle may not even be officially released yet. Maybe the public launch is next week. Maybe inventory is limited. But the dealership wants you in early. Why? Because you are no longer viewed as one transaction. You are viewed as lifetime value. Today, you buy a sedan. 3 years from now, maybe an SUV, then a sports car, then another vehicle for your spouse. Then maybe your children buy from the same dealership. Wealthy customers are valuable not because they spend once, but because they can become recurring revenue for decades. So now the experience changes again. Private room, better coffee, less waiting, direct access to a manager, maybe even a dedicated account representative. Financing is no longer presented like a fixed menu. It becomes a conversation. Your financial profile is strong enough that lenders want the business. That competition can create better terms. But the biggest luxury at this level is not the interest rate. It is friction removal. The dealership begins removing things you hate. Waiting, uncertainty, paperwork, repetition, sales pressure. You've gone from being processed to being handled. That distinction matters, because luxury is rarely just about nicer materials. Real luxury is often the removal of inconvenience. Now you're 51. Your net worth is above $1 million. And at this point, the car buying experience may barely look like car buying at all. You may never walk into the showroom. The conversation happens through email, maybe a short phone call. The dealership already knows what you like. They know the options you usually select. They may know your preferred exterior color, your interior, your previous vehicles. A manager sends you the numbers. The price may include discounts that never appear on the website. You approve the deal. Documents are sent electronically. And later, a vehicle transporter arrives at your home. The car rolls off the truck. Clean. Prepared. Ready. No negotiating desk. No showroom waiting. No, let me talk to my manager. No pressure. No emotional roller coaster. And here is the most important part. At this level, the purchase is almost boring. That sounds negative. But it's actually the point. When money is tight, buying a car is an event. Every number matters. Every mistake hurts. Every percentage point feels expensive. When money becomes abundant relative to the purchase, the emotional intensity disappears. The car is still expensive, but it is no longer financially dramatic. And that may be one of the clearest signs of wealth. Not what you can buy, but what you can buy without changing the rest of your life. Now, here's the part most people miss. The dealership did not create your financial position when you walked through the door. It was created years earlier, when you paid a bill late, when you maxed out a credit card, when you decided whether to build an emergency fund, when you took out debt you could barely afford, when you increased your income, when you started investing, when you stopped living from paycheck to paycheck. The person who gets offered 24.9% APR and the person who gets private financing did not become different people inside the dealership. They arrived different. The showroom simply revealed it. And this is why the way you are treated can feel so personal even when it isn't. The dealership doesn't necessarily hate the person with bad credit. And it doesn't necessarily love the millionaire. It responds to risk. A low credit score signals more risk. More risk usually means worse loan terms. Strong income and strong credit signal lower risk. Lower risk gives you more options. More options give you more leverage. And leverage changes the entire conversation. One of the biggest mistakes people make is focusing only on the price of the car. They negotiate $500 off the purchase price, then lose thousands through financing. They fight for a better trade-in value, then accept expensive add-ons. They celebrate a low monthly payment without asking how many months they'll be paying it. A car deal is not one number. It is several numbers. Purchase price, interest rate, loan length, face, add-ons, trade-in value, down payment, and total cost. The dealership understands all of them. You should too, because the person who only understands the monthly payment is negotiating against someone who understands the entire equation. That is not an equal fight. People think the luxury car is the status symbol. Sometimes it is. But financially, there is something more powerful. Option. The ability to say no. The ability to walk away. The ability to buy somewhere else. The ability to pay cash if financing makes no sense. The ability to finance because the rate is attractive. The ability to wait 6 months. The ability to keep your current car. The ability to buy the car without destroying your savings. That is real financial power. The person with the most options usually feels the least pressure. And the person who feels the least pressure usually negotiates better. So if you walk into a luxury dealership today, remember this. They may begin evaluating you in the first 40 seconds, but the numbers they eventually see were built over years. Your credit history, your income, your debt, your assets, your habits. Those things quietly shape your experience long before you ever touch the steering wheel. At level 1, you are asking for approval. At level 2, you are negotiating the payment. At level 3, you are learning the game. At level 4, you have leverage. At level 5, you value time. At level 6, you receive access. And at level 7, the entire process comes to you. The car didn't change. The showroom didn't change. The system didn't change. You did. And once your financial position changes, the way almost every business treats you changes with it. Not because the world suddenly respects you more, because financially, you became a better customer. And that is the uncomfortable truth behind luxury. The best treatment is often reserved for the people who need it the least. If you want more videos breaking down the hidden systems behind money, wealth, credit, luxury, and consumer psychology, subscribe. Because once you understand how the game works, you stop being surprised by the rules.